The Holy Island of Lindisfarne is a wild and beautiful place that's still a site of pilgrimage over 1,300 years since its most famous introvert lived here. St. Cuthbert lived and worked on the island when it was a major centre of religion and learning. He is famous for his connection to the natural world and as an early protector of wildlife. We'll hear about him being helped by a horse and some otters, learn about his enduring environmentalism, and find out why the Holy Island is still a safe haven for introverts, pilgrims and nature lovers today. Welcome to Lindisfarne. I recently spent 2 weeks on Lindisfarne as part of an archaeological dig. Now, I'm not an archaeologist, but I was a paying volunteer through Dig Ventures to work on the dig and experience life on the island. I absolutely fell in love with the Holy Island and was charmed by the stories of St. Cuthbert. I was staying in a bunkhouse and struggled with the very social way of life at the hostel, and that got me wondering about whether St. Cuthbert was an introvert like me. Of course, this is pure speculation on my part. There is no written evidence for this at all, and introversion is a very modern concept that certainly did not exist in Cuthbert's time. The Holy Island is a remote place, and the one road on and off the island is a tidal causeway. This means that when the tide is high, the island is cut off from the mainland, so twice a day the island is isolated and peaceful. People have been living on Lindisfarne for a long time, well before the founding of St. Aidan's monastery there in 635 AD. The island feels remote now, but in the early medieval period of the Northumbrian Golden Age, this area was very busy. Think of Northumbria less as being in the north of England and more of being in the centre of Britain, and also well placed for the maritime trade that was happening with Scandinavian people long before the Viking raids began in 793. In Cuthbert's time, the way across the island would have been either by boat or by foot across the marked path, just as it was until the 1950s when the Causeway Road was constructed. Just like the road, the footpath to the island is only passable during low tide, which I imagine might have been a contributing factor when deciding to build the monastery on Lindisfarne, close to the mainland but twice a day being separated from it. The legend goes that St. Cuthbert's religious life began the night St. Aidan died. A teenage Cuthbert was outside guarding a flock of sheep when he saw a light descend to earth and then return, which he believed was an angel escorting St. Aidan's soul to heaven. He became a monk in the British Celtic tradition at the monastery at Melrose and also spent time at another monastery in Ripon. At the Synod of Whitby in 665, it was decided that Northumbrian Christians should follow the Roman tradition of faith rather than the Celtic tradition, which meant many of the monks went back to Iona. Cuthbert stayed and later moved to Lindisfarne when he was about 30. He was prior there for around 10 years. He was popular and had a talent for healing and was known for his kindness and compassion. As competent and popular as he was, at around the age of 40, he decided to become a hermit. He spent a short time on the absolutely teeny Hobthrush Island just off Lindisfarne, nowadays known as St. Cuthbert's Island, and then moved to Innerfarne, a much larger but far more remote island, and still in sight of Lindisfarne. He built a hermitage there and dedicated himself to a life of contemplation and solitude, although many people still visited him. I really feel for him, moving further and further away, but only really being left alone when the seas were too rough for travel. In the year 684, he was asked to become the Bishop of Lindisfarne, to which he reluctantly agreed, and then he travelled widely, being all bishopy, before returning home to Innerfarne as he felt death's approach, and where he died in 687. I can't help but think being forced into the very political life of a bishop must have been very hard for someone who felt called to a spiritual life, based in nature, and who had made a place for himself on these wild islands. It's hard to get away from the natural world on Lindisfarne. It's an ever-present dictator of the rhythms of life. It's not just the tidal causeway, but also the strong winds, the magnificent coastline, the dunes, the deer, the seals, and the many, many birds. They all contribute to the feeling of wildness and timelessness that makes every walk feel special and gives a sense of seeing the world as the early inhabitants saw it. It's a place where I felt truly part of nature, far more so than in a town or a city. But it's also special for what humans have created, such as the castle on the eastern side of the island and the ruins of the Priory, a more recent one to Cuthbert's and destroyed during the Reformation. These two structures, plus the charming cottages and the brilliantly practical sheds, all create an atmosphere of mystery and whimsy, photogenic and magical. The oldest church on the island is St Mary's, apparently on the site of St Aidan's original monastery, and with elements of the building dating back to the early medieval period. It's a beautiful church, still very much in use, and which provides a peaceful place to sit and meditate or pray and tap into the connection back to St Cuthbert and his monks. There are ruins of an older chapel up on the hill next to St Mary's and the Abbey, with wonderful views of the island, the sea and the mainland, and a great spot to watch the sunset. Braving the winds to experience the sunrises and sunsets gave me so many amazing moments of pure awe at the beauty of nature, especially when it's so tightly bound to faith and spirituality. From the hill you can look out to sea and to Lindisfarne off in the distance. I can't really fathom how isolated it is, and I wonder if Cuthbert built the Hermitage entirely alone or if he had help making it. And was he lonely? I assume not, as it sounds like maybe he had more visitors than he'd have liked. In the days before modern medicine, anyone with a reputation for healing was undoubtedly very much in demand. And there are stories about his interactions with animals that make me think he had many non-human friends around him too. I find it interesting how many things from the natural world are named after him. Cuddy's ducks for the eider ducks around the island, and St Cuthbert's beads for the dried algae collected around the coast. There's a Cuthbert snail, a Cuthbert oak, and Cuddy's bolete too, a type of mushroom. There's a story about how, after praying for a long time in the sea, otters came to dry and warm his feet with their bodies in warm breath, and another about a horse who helped a young Cuthbert find food in a barn when he was hungry. St Cuthbert had such a close connection with the Cuddy ducks that legend says he put them under his protection, a protection that seems to have lasted for many years after his death, and for which there was allegedly a related curse that struck down at least one eider-bothering monk. So not only was he probably an introvert, he was also an early conservationist. What's not to like? I can understand how such compassion can continue to be venerated throughout the ages. Lindisfarne may not be quite as remote as Lindisfarne, which can only be accessed by organised boat tours these days, and where I didn't get a chance to visit on this trip. But Lindisfarne is still an excellent place to stay for a few days or longer if you're someone who likes to get away from towns and people and experience real retreat from the modern world. There are various places to stay, eat and drink. None of them are particularly cheap, but that's to be expected when you're a bit isolated. You need to be aware that businesses also open and close with the tides. This is no 24/7 shopping destination. But after a few days, you tune into the rhythm of life here, and if you're lucky enough to find a place to stay with a good view of the ruins or out to sea, you can while away many hours in this little slice of heaven in the North Sea, walking when the weather allows and then watching a storm roll in from the comfort of your cottage. For me, it's a nature-loving introvert's paradise, and one day I hope to return. But I will most definitely not be staying in a bunkroom.